Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. So, we'll be starting today's session, and today's session is going to be covering saving goals and investment strategies. Now, by the end of this session, you'll be walking away with the confidence and the knowledge of how to save towards a particular goal, and at the same time, to be able to walk away with strategies that you can use to start your investment journey. Now, before we kick off this session, I would like to say a short prayer if you do not mind. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for your goodness and your mercies upon our life. Thank you for your grace and your strength. Lord, as we're about to start today's session, please come and dwell with us. Open up our minds to receive, open up our hearts to believe, and help us to execute all that we're going to learn today. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Okay, so now we'll be starting today's session with having to understand smart money moves. Now, there are specific, if you can hear me, please, I would like for you to drop something in the chat box or just to notify. Okay, so while that is going on, we'll be starting with understanding smart money moves, where we'll be going down to knowing how to save towards a particular goal so that you're not just saving in any way or anyhow that you think. You're not just saving based on vibes, but rather you're saving towards a particular goal to ensure that you reach to that particular extent that you're looking out for. And at the same time, we are also going to be looking at specific strategies that you can use to invest. So it helps you to understand how to invest, what to invest in, and where, or rather, which platform to use and invest. Now, this is not just a session where I'm just going to be talking, but rather this is a session that I have built based off of experience and knowledge I have gathered over a couple of times that I've tried to save towards a particular goal, and also times that I've also invested. Now, I am going to start with having to introduce myself. My name is Donhenrynwosu, and I am a financial analyst and consultant, which means I help individuals, young professionals, to make smart money decisions and also to help them grow and build towards a very, very beautiful financial future. Now, the first part of this webinar is going to be covering saving towards a goal. Now, there's this framework that I tend to use most of the time whenever I decide to achieve a particular goal, and it's called the SMART framework. Now, this SMART framework, you might have heard it some other places. So that is to tell you that it is a trusted technique. It is a framework that a lot of people use over time, and at the end of the day, they get to achieve that particular goal that they have set for themselves because it is following a particular and a structured framework that has been proven to work, and it's a very, very strong technique. Now, SMART means the S is for specific, the M is for measurable, the A achievable, R relevant, and T time bound. What do I mean by smart? Now, when you say you want to save towards a particular goal using the SMART framework, the S being specific means you have to define the goal clearly. You're not just going to say, "Oh, I want to get rich." Everybody wants to get rich. But now, when I tell you to be specific about that goal, you'll now be saying, within the next 10 years, I want to have been able to grow my investment portfolio to about 10 million naira. I want to grow my savings to 20 million naira. I am mentioning the exact amount and I'm mentioning the exact thing that I want. So I am being specific on the amount. I am also being specific on the thing. So you're not just going to give a broad statement with having to say, I want to be, I want to be a rich person. I want to be financially free. How? Be specific about how you want to get to that particular goal. That's the S. Now, for measurable, your goal, you have to measure your goal. Now, by the time you've specified what exactly you want to attain, you have to break it down into measurable steps. Now, you should be able to break down a particular goal into specific steps that would enable you to measure it either daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Now, take for instance, you want to save 1 million naira by the end of this year. If we are in January and you want to save 1 million naira by the end of this year, which means by December you want to have 1 million naira saved up in your bank account. When you have made the goal specific, which is I want to save 1 million naira by the end of this year, it being measurable means 1 million naira divided by 12 months in a year, 1 million naira divided by 12 months. Now, that particular amount should be what you should be targeting to save every month. And when you actually save it in a month, you would go to your tracker and tick off the months that you have saved. So, what we're now saying is that you have to be able to track that goal to ensure that you're not just doing anything based off of vibes, you're not just doing anything out of the blues, but rather you are tracking it and ensuring that you're hitting every milestone that you have set out for yourself. If you think having to save every month to get up to the 1 million naira is too much, you can break it down into weeks. By the time you would have broken it down into weeks, the amount looks smaller. And then by the end of each week, you'd come to check if you have saved up that amount that you're supposed to save for that week in order to meet that your goal of 1 million naira in a year. Now, that's for the S and the M. For the A in SMART, which is achievable, as much as it is good to be optimistic or to look way beyond your limits and all of that, it's also advisable to ensure that the goal you are setting is achievable. Now, you cannot just set a goal that is beyond your capacity in the next 3 to 5 years. I'll give an example. Take, for instance, I am earning 200,000 naira per month, and I wake up one morning and I tell you that my goal for this year is to save 20 million naira by the end of this year. It's not realistic given the salary I earn per month, which is 200,000. And inside that salary, I have to bring out all my expenses. There's transportation, there's internet, there's light bill, there's food, and then any other miscellaneous along the way. With the current situation of Nigeria, you already know that the 200,000 naira may not be enough. And then you're setting a goal for yourself to save 20 million naira by the end of this year with that salary. It's unachievable. So the A in the SMART framework ensures that you're setting a realistic goal that is based on your income. So even if you want to start saving, make sure that the specific goal that you have set out for yourself is achievable within that income of yours. That's for the S, the M, and the A. Now for the R, the goal has to be relevant. The goal has to align with your life priorities right now. So when you're saying a goal has to be relevant and your priorities are looking towards getting a job, getting once you've gotten the job, you'd be on a salary of about 200K, hypothetically. And the priorities for your life within the next 5 to 10 years is once you've gotten a job, you're earning your salary, and you just want to start getting a couple of certifications along the way. That is if your profession has certifications that you need to gain. Now you'd want to be gaining certifications along the way, and within that 5 to 10 years, you would then want to move into your own apartment. And the goal, this is the priority that you have. Get a job, save, get a job, sorry, get a job, get certifications, and move into your apartment. And you have a goal in your mind that you want to focus on. And the goal is talking about relocating to UK. And you have to save to backward facing goals or backward facing priorities. The priority that you have for yourself is to get a job, get certifications, and then move into an apartment. And then the goal you want to set for yourself is to move to UK. It's not relating at all. So what we're now saying is the R in SMART ensures that your goal is relevant with your life priorities. Your goal should be in alignment with the priorities that you have for your life right now. Now for the T is the time bound. And what do I mean by time bound? Time bound means to set a deadline. So basically, you're not just going to say, I want to save 1 million naira. When? When will you start? When will it end? That is the example I gave from the beginning about being specific. I want to save 2 million naira by the end of this year, or I want to save 2 million naira in the next 12 months, or I want to save 2 million naira in the next 6 months. You have to attach a time bound to your goal to enable you have a specific plan that you'll be able to follow. Now, with this framework, you'd be able to to purely focus on that particular goal that you have for yourself. So now let me give an example that I'll use myself as an example because it's a technique that I've tried to use and it's working for me. Now, I wanted to move into my own apartment because I just moved to Lagos and where I was staying was actually far from work. Now, I have already made my research on a couple of areas that are closer to my workplace, and most of the apartments I have seen, they are nice, and the amount of money for the rent is fair enough. Now, I want to save towards that goal. Using this smart framework, I'm going to be specific, saying my goal is to save 1 million naira as rent. That's the S, because I'm being specific that I want to save 1 million naira for rent. Now, to make it measurable, using the same salary of about 200K, and I want to save 1 million naira per month. Now, I'm not going to be doing 200K divided by 12 because I cannot be dividing my income by the goal I want to set. But rather, I'm going to be dividing the amount of money I want to save with how much time I have to save that amount of money, which is 1 million naira divided by 12. And when you do that, you should be getting about 83,366, or rather 83,666.67. Now, which means every month I should be setting aside 83 to 84,000 naira within the next 12 months. So within the next 12 months, if I'm able to save 84,000 naira, by the end of the 12th month, I should be getting my 1 million naira and I'll be ready to pay my rent for the apartment. Now, the measurable part of it is that I'm not just going to be dropping money without having to check if I followed through with the monthly deductions I said I was going to be doing. So you could either have it on an Excel sheet or you could have it on the traditional pen and paper where you'd write down January, February down to December, and then you'd now be putting on the amount of money that you're saving every month. That way you'd be able to track to know if that month, if you've actually dropped the money for that month. Now, the achievable part is that based off of my income of 200K, 1 million naira is attainable by the end of 12 months. Because out of 200K, if I'm able to save 84,000 naira, I can use the remaining 116 to move on with life that month up until the next month. Yes, I know it's going to be tough because I'm not going to lie. It was actually tough for me when I was doing this part because I said I was using myself as an example. So yes, it was tough. It is going to be tough. But the main thing is once you have set it to go for yourself, you just have to cut off all distractions and focus on the goal to ensure that you attain that particular goal. Now, the R in the SMART is that that goal of wanting to move into my apartment was relevant to me because the plan I had for my life was graduate from school, get a job, work for a couple of years before getting before getting some certifications. Now, for me to get the job and move towards getting the certifications, I need to look for a way to make my life better. Now, these are my reasons. From where I was staying before I moved, from where I was staying while going to work, it was costing me more based on based on the transportation, because where I was staying was farther from my office, and with the distance, I had to spend more to get to my office. Now, moving into the new apartment was going to cut my transportation cost by 50%, which means it's aligning with my goal, with my life priorities of wanting to work for a couple of years. While working for a couple of years, I do not have to spend all my money on transportation. I have to ensure that I am optimizing every cost I can optimize, and at the same time, I'm living below my means. So that way, I have extra cash flow to build the life that I want. And then the T was the time bound, which meant that after 12 months, I was able to have saved the amount of money that I wanted to save, and I used it for exactly what I wanted to use it for. Now, this everything I've just mentioned now, which is the SMART framework, it's going to be tiresome if you decide to do it manually. Now, these are techniques that I use. I automate the transfers anytime my salary comes in. So I have this application that automatically deducts the 84,000 naira from my salary account on the day that my salary comes in. So every month, my salary is being paid on the 26th. Now, the automatic transfer means that on the 26th or on the 27th, deduct 84,000 naira from my income account and put it here for me. So I do not have to go through the stress of having to transfer the money from my salary account into my savings account. It just gets deducted automatically. All I have to do is ensure that it actually occurred and then go down to my tracker and note it down. 84,000 naira January. I will take it good. Now, another way is to have a target savings account. In the same application that I use for the automatic transfers, you could set a target. Now, that same feature of automating the transfer, if you set a target of 1 million naira 12 months, it's going to link, you would be able to link it to your traditional bank account, where every month is going to deduct that amount to ensure that you're meeting that goal that you have set for yourself, that target that you have set. That is it. Now, another technique you can use to save is emergency fund. I do not know how much that I have to keep on screaming about emergency funds before people get to understand the importance of emergency fund. Now, I would give an example. There's this particular day I went on a journey. I'd already put money aside for my transportation, the bus fees, food I would eat on the road, and every other thing. And then my Uber when I get down to the state I was going to. Now I got down to where I was going to, but when before I got there, I was supposed to meet someone who would pick me up from the park. So basically, I was not supposed to spend any money from the park to my destination, right? The plan was I'd already called my friend. I would be at this park by this time. So please, 10 to 20 minutes before that time I have told you, you should be at the park waiting for me so that we can go home together. Now, 5 minutes to when I was getting to that park, my friend was unavailable. I could not reach him through calls, through text message. I could not reach him in any way, shape, or form. So basically, I was stranded. Now, not stranded financially, but I didn't know the area. I didn't know anything. All I had was the address. And I'm calling this dude. He's not picking up his calls. His messages are not going through. Now, the thing that saved me that night was the fact that I had some amount of money that I saved somewhere in case, because that's what I always tell myself. Let me drop this amount of money in case. So basically, what that whole thing was more like, it's in case of emergency. Now, you're not saving up expecting emergencies, but emergencies are things that happen out of the blues. You do not pray for them, you do not expect them, but they just happen out of nowhere. So it is best that you are prepared for it and it does not catch you off guard. Now, that night, I was able to withdraw money from my emergency fund and get myself down to the house in order to keep myself safe because it was an emergency at that point. I was stranded in the middle of a state I knew nothing about. All I knew was the address. So all I had to do was just withdraw the money, book an Uber, and then I got myself down to the house, safe and sound. So there are more examples and there are more reasons why someone should have an emergency fund. Now, for you to build an emergency fund, it's not also an easy task, but it is something that it is a goal that you have to save towards. Now, these are my reasons. An emergency fund should be able to cover at least 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. Don't get me wrong. Now, there are other emergencies. Take, for instance, health issues, accidents, or your car breakdown, or your laptop gets spoiled, or your phone drops into water. Now, because of those things, now you're not expecting them, neither did you pray for them, but they just happened. And the best thing that you would have done for yourself at that point is to be thankful that you had an emergency buffer that you would be able to use to replace any of those gadgets that got spoiled. So it does not limit you from having to do any other thing that you have to do. Because there are a lot of people that that use their phone for work, that use their phone for schools, or their laptop for work, or their laptop for school. And if you're not able to rejuvenate that particular device, you would not be able to continue with your life as usual. Now, we've gone into how to save towards a particular goal. Let me give you the reasons why saving is important. Because one advice that our parents give us most of the time is, as you're going out, you make sure you're saving money, or make sure you're saving money. Yes, it is actually important to save, but do not just look at it from the lens of that is what my parents asked me to do, or that is what everybody's doing. There's a particular reason as to why saving is important. Number one, it gives you peace of mind. Now, the peace of mind that if anything happens, I have a guard covering me. I have an emergency fund. I have an emergency buffer that even if anything happens now, I'm not going to be running around looking for who to borrow from. I already have a backup that I'll be able to access when I want it. Now, the second one is goal achievement. By the time you would save, you would be able to reach short-term targets without taking debts. Because debt is something that I advise a lot of people not to go into. Number one, it disturbs your peace of mind, it disturbs your sanity, and the interest rate makes it very much expensive. So even if you'd want to go into debt, ensure that it's not for something frivolous or something that you could have achieved by saving towards it. And then the third reason why saving is important is that it gives you financial stability. Consistent saving builds discipline, it reduces anxiety, and it lays the groundwork for investing. That is, these are all the reasons why everyone and anybody should save. Now, I know I have been mentioning about a couple of platforms or a couple of apps that you have to save. I'm going to be giving you specific apps that I use personally. Now, I'm not just, before I come out to speak or to tell anybody anything, I would have already tested it and verified it to be sure that it actually works and it does the job for me. So when I am coming out to talk about it, it's not just from a sense of hearsay, but from a sense of experience because I have done it and it's working for me. So these are specific apps that I use to save. Number one is PiggyVest. PiggyVest allows me to build towards a target. So let's take, for instance, the point where I was trying to save towards a rent. My budget was about a 1 million naira, and I just went over to PiggyVest. I want to save 1 million naira within the next 12 months. There's a feature there. It's on the application. And if you need help with having to set up your platforms to save and to do anything you want to do, you can reach out to me on my Instagram or on my YouTube. On my Instagram, Donhenrynwosu, and on my YouTube, Donhenrynwosu. The same name across all social media platform. I am available. Now I use Piggyvest. I use OP. OP allows me to save towards a fixed amount. I also use Kuda Bank. I use Bamboo, and I use Bluetooth New. I am going to be putting down these applications, or rather these platforms, in the comment section. So whenever you want to take a look at them, or you want to rewatch this video to come back to this information, check out the pinned comment section. You'd be able to see them there and use them if you want to. So basically, these are the applications that I use for my own savings. I would mention them again: Piggyvest, OP, Kuda Bank, Bamboo, and Bluetooth New. I use each of these applications to save. Now, that is all for saving goals, because to save towards a particular goal, it takes nothing more than determination and execution. So you have determined in your mind that you must save towards this particular goal. And thinking it is different from doing it. So it's best that the moment you have made the decision in your mind, go ahead and do it. You do not have to wait till you're ready. I know there's a lot of information going on about, people are telling you start with what you have, start with what you have, and it's looking like you do not even have anything to start with. But it is also as easy as starting with what you have. The first time I saved on Piggyvest was 1,000 naira, and it was on a 3 months intervals. That's like 5 to 10 years ago when I started saving. My first savings was 1,000 naira, and the second time I topped up that saving was after 3 months. So as much as, and this was even before I started hearing start with what you have. The only thing I had on my mind was, I have 1,000 naira I'm not using now, and I want to start saving. Let's just start. And the next time I see any amount of money that I'm not going to be using, I'll put it there. But for now, what I have now is 1,000 naira, and I put it there. So that was how I started. And it grew over time, and I kept on topping it up. And now I am now on an accrual basis of having to save every month. So start with what you have and ensure that you are consistent, because as a young individual or as a young professional, the greatest weapon you have right now is time. You are on a more advantaged position as as a young individual in your 20s, or rather in your early 30s. You're in a more advantaged position than someone who is in his 50s or 60s, because the difference between the two of you is time. You have a couple of about 50, 60 years that you can actively save before you reach retirement. While the person who is 50, 60 has less than 10 years before they get to retirement. It all depends on the age you want to retire. A lot of people now are retiring at a more earlier year. I met someone on Instagram who said he wants to retire at 55. It's your choice. But just know that even if you want to retire at 55, hypothetically, in your 20s, you have 30 years plus before you reach 55, if you're going to be retiring at 55. And that's enough time for you to be able to save and compound your savings. Unlike someone who's already 40 or 50, he barely has less than 5 years to be able to save, which in one way or the other, it may not make much impact on the savings that he's building towards his retirement. So when you keep on hearing start with what you have, start with what you have, it is as easy and also as hard as it sounds, which means start with what you have. That's it. That is it for saving goals. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. I'm going to be responding to questions before I go over to the second part, which is the investing strategies. I am waiting. If there's any questions, please drop it in the chat box. I would respond to the chat box and jump on to the next part, which is investment strategies. Okay, looks like there's no question, which means you're actually making sense with what I have been saying. Now, for investing, what does investing mean? Investing means making your money to work for you. In plain terms, you've you got a job, you're earning salary, you're earning an income, or you're earning salary, anyone. Using that money to make more money for yourself is what we call investing. There are different forms of investment. But now I'm going to start with why you should invest or the reasons why you should invest. Number one, you have to invest to beat inflation. In today's Nigerian market, inflation is not less than 15%. And for you to be at the end of a year, if that is how long you want to save for, you're just going to come back to the exact amount that you dropped there. No addition. Now, that amount of money at the end of the year, when you come back to it, might not be able to purchase the number of goods or might not be able to give you the exact worth of goods that you would want to use the money for at the time you need it because inflation has reduced the value of the money that you saved. Now, when you invest that money that you have saved, what it does for you is that it makes more money for you. So it's not just sitting there, but rather it is sitting and working. It is doubling itself and bringing back returns for you. That is what we mean by having to beat inflation. Because inflation in Nigeria eats up savings. And if you do not invest, you are just going to be having your money, but with a much less purchasing power. So when you invest the money, you'd be able to gain at least 15 to 25% interest rate within a year. The second reason why you have to invest is to build long-term wealth. When you're talking about wealth, we're not talking about the quick money scheme that people are doing or wanting to invest today and you're making returns tomorrow. It's not possible. Anybody who tells you to invest money now and in the next 2 weeks you're going to be getting double of that money, run away because the person is about to eat your hard earned money. So the best reason why you should invest is to build long term wealth. This means that your investment would be able to compound over time. Now, even if you're making investments of 5,000 naira every month, by the time you're putting 5,000 naira every month for the next 15 years, you're adding 5,000 naira on top of the previous 5,000 naira. So month one, you have 5,000. Month two, you have 10,000. Month three, 15. Month four. Now, if all of this is in an investment account and you put 5,000 naira in month one, by the time you come back to put 5,000 naira in month two, you're not coming back to meet 5,000 naira. You're meeting 5,000 naira plus your interest rate for that month. So it's compounding over time. This is the clearest scenario. 5,000 naira in month one, you're going to be having 5,000 naira plus your interest rate. Then when you put your 5,000 naira in month two, you're now going to be having 10,000 naira plus interest rate in month one. By the end of month two, you'll be having 10,000 naira plus interest rates in month two. Now, remember that the interest rate now is now double, which means 10,000 naira plus interest rate in month one plus interest rate in month two. When you now come back on the third month to put another 5,000 naira, you're going to be having 15,000 naira plus interest rate in month one, interest rate in month two, and interest rates in month three. So by the time you're compounding this amount of money across 15 years, 20 years, you are going to be having a very substantial amount to be able to retire with. So this is one reason why I keep on screaming to people, invest, 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 because It is one way to secure your financial future. The third reason why you should invest is financial freedom. You invest towards retirement, build a passive income so that you're not just depending on a single salary. Because at the end of the day, in Nigeria, one single source of income can not help you to survive. These are the reasons why you have to invest. Now, let us go down to the types of investments. Number one, we have stocks and equity. Stocks and equity is within the risk assessment of medium to high. Stocks and equities are within medium to high investments. This is the reason. Stocks and equities give you access to owning shares in a company, which means you're going to be gaining there is a high potential return, and at the same time, it is best for long-term holding. Stocks and equities are best for long-term holding, which means stocks and equities are not the kind of investments that you do today and next month you want to withdraw them, or next month you want to sell your stocks, or next month you want to sell your shares. It's not going to be beneficial to you. By the time you start investing in stocks and equities, they are very good for long term holding, and it brings up potential returns. Now, for stocks and equities, there are two ways that you can earn from stocks and equities. Number one is price appreciation, or what we call stock price appreciation, which means if you buy a stock or if you buy a share for 1,000 naira in 2025, in the next 15 or in the next 20 years, which is 2035, that stock is not going to remain at 1,000 naira per share. It could go as much as 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira per share. Remember, you bought it for 1,000 naira in 2025. There is a possibility of that stock climbing up to 15,000 naira per share. So if it's that you bought five stocks or 10, take for instance, you bought 10 stocks at 1,000 naira, which means you bought 10 stocks for 10,000 naira. In the next 10 years, and that stock rises up to 5,000 naira per share, 5,000 naira multiplied by 10 stocks that you bought, that's about 50,000 naira. Do you see the gap difference? That is one way to earn with stocks. The second way is dividend. When you invest in dividend paying stocks, you're now going to be earning from the price appreciation of that stock and also the company paying you dividends. What do I mean by dividends? Dividends are rewards for investing in a company. It's as simple as it is. Because you invested in my company, I'm going to be giving you a couple of money within a specified period of time. That is dividend. That is all to know about stocks and equities. And then there are platforms accessible to Nigerians to be able to invest in stocks and equities. The second type of investment is bonds and fixed income. Bonds and fixed income, these are means that companies or the government use to raise money. So what it means is you as an individual, you're lending your money to a government, or rather, you're lending your money to a company. So what that means is that you're going to be having predictable income and it is good for stability, which means you're lending your money. It's not investing in the company. You are lending your money to the company to maybe the company wants to use the money for expansion, or they want to use the money for something else. But they've just been able to come out and tell you, we have bonds available for sale and it is open to the public. Come and buy. These are certain investments that is within low to medium risk assessment. And it is best to hold your bonds or your fixed income for a couple of time. And the interest rate on this is within 8 to 15%, which is a very substantial amount to have. Another type of investment is what we call mutual funds or ETFs. Mutual fund or ETFs means exchange traded funds. What this means is Mutual fund is a form of investment, or rather ETF, any of the two. We are both trying to, they both have the same meaning. This is a situation whereby investments are pulled from investors and managed by experts. So, what that means is, take for instance, I want to invest in a stock and I don't know the particular stock to buy. Mutual funds and ETFs give you the option of having to invest in a lot of stocks at the same time. One scenario I like to use to explain mutual funds and ETF is a fruit basket. Now, if it's that you had the the issue of having to go into the market to buy a particular fruit, you do not know which fruit to buy, you don't know if you want to get a watermelon or you want to get a banana. Mutual funds and ETF is just like a fruit basket, which means you're just going to a particular trader who is in the market and then you buy a basket of fruits. Basically, in that basket, you'd be having a watermelon, you'd be having a banana, there's a pineapple in there, there's a strawberry in there, in one basket. So now you have the options of using using one stone to kill a couple of birds. So basically, you're buying a lot of stocks by just investing in one mutual fund or by investing in one ETF. Now, I know you're going to be wondering how would you be able to invest in a lot of stocks with by one investment? These investments, they are all managed by experts. There are expert companies and expert individuals who manage mutual funds and ETFs. And the risk assessment for this particular form of investment is medium. It is medium, which means that these financial experts only put the money in safe investments, or rather in safe stocks, that in one way or the other it's not going to harm your capital. And it gives you an average of 10 to 20% per annum. Another investment we have is real estate. The risk assessment is medium, and on an average, it gives you 12 to 25% per annum. What that means in real estate is you're investing in properties, you're investing in landed properties, you're investing in trust funds, or rather you're investing in real estate investment trust. So basically, you're either purchasing a property or you're purchasing a building, or a lot of people are doing it these days where they term it as land banking. They buy a piece of land today and they hold the land. Within the next 5 to 10 years, they decide to sell off the land for, obviously, the price of the land would have appreciated. So now they are gaining more from it. That's another form of investment. Another one we have is what we call cryptocurrency. And the risk assessment is very high. It is very high. The average rate, or rather the interest rate, is it varies over time. It's not there's no fixed rate that can be tied to cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, these are all very high volatility cryptocurrencies that you can only invest in if you can afford to lose a maximum of 5 to 25% of your capital. The risk assessment is very, very high. The last type of investment I'm going to be talking about is dollar cost averaging. What this means is that you are investing a fixed amount regularly, regardless of the price. So basically, what you're saying is you're just investing a fixed amount every time in a dollar investment. Even if dollar rises up to 1.7 today, you're just fixed on it that I am going to be investing in this particular dollar investment because of you know what is going to come out of it. You know the returns coming out of it. So these are several forms of investment that one can make in order to grow their financial portfolio over time. If there's any question, please don't forget to drop it in the chat box. I'll be responding to questions as at when due, and I'll come back to the session. Now, I have given you examples of investments to make and also types of investments. If you still need a deep understanding and handheld guidance on how to make these investments, or rather, which investments to make based off of your own person as an individual, I have a book on sale which is called investment playbook. It's on sale. The link is in my bio on YouTube and on Instagram. And also, if you feel like you do not want to buy the book or you do not want to read the book, you can reach out to me on Instagram or you can reach out to me here on YouTube, and I'll be able to get back to you in order to guide you on which investments to make and how to make them. Back to the session. Now, there are different apps that you can use to make your investments that is accessible to Nigerians and also that is accessible to Nigerians. Yes. Now, this investment does not confine you to making only investments in Nigeria. You can access international investments even as a Nigerian. Now, there are certain stocks that I bought a couple of months ago. They are not Nigerian stocks, they are US stocks. So that is an evidence that international investments are also accessible to Nigerians living in Nigeria. Now, some of these investment applications includes Bamboo. In Bamboo, I do my US stock, I do my Nigerian stock, and then I do my ETFs. I also do my fixed dollar savings in Bamboo. Another application we have is Rise. In Rise, you do dollar investments. There are a lot of investments there that you can do in dollar denominated funds. There's stock, there's real estate, there's fixed income, there's auto investment, and then there's US denomination returns. Another app that I use is Bluetooth New, where you can invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, real assets. So you're not just investing in anything because of it's just there. These are real assets that you can invest in on these platforms. And then another platform I use is what we call Wealth Body. These are investments that I have personally used. So I'm not just telling you based off I went off to the internet to make researches just to come on this session and just blab. These are applications, these are apps that I use personally on a day-to-day basis that I am bringing on here for you guys to also know about. So I am not just talking based off of someone told me or a colleague mentioned. I am using them. So I am here now to give you my own testimony that I am using them and they are working for me and I am seeing what I am expecting to see. So these are some of the apps that you can be using or you can start with today. Like I said earlier, if you need help or you need a guidance on how to invest, what to invest in, you can reach out to me on Instagram or you can reach out to me on my Gmail. I also have a book for investing. The title of the book is Investment Playbook. The link is in my bio. If you do not want to read the book, reach out to me on my social media platform and I can book a session for you to take you in a detailed, comprehensive step on how, what, and where to invest in. Now, there are several things that I have to let you know about, which means there's a difference between gaining knowledge and executing the knowledge. Now, today you have heard me speak, you have learned a couple of things about saving, about investing. Now, the only thing left for you to do is to actually apply what you have learned today. And the difference between the two of them is what will determine your nearest future. The difference between learning and executing what you have learned is what is going to determine your future. So, as much as you have gotten the information today, you have learned, you have grabbed the knowledge, you have gotten everything that you need to get. If you do not apply them, nothing is going to happen. It's as much as saying, I want to run or I want to eat without having to go into the kitchen to cook the food or without having to tie up your gym shoes and then go out to run. So these are your next action plan for you to gain financial transformation within the next 3 to 6 months. Step one, build an emergency fund. Build an emergency fund before you start investing. This is my reason. I have seen a couple of clients who come back to me to tell me that they want to sell some stocks. You just bought the stock 2 months ago and you want to sell them now. Why? I need quick money for something. I want to attend to something. That is the reason why you should have had an emergency fund from the beginning. So if you have an emergency fund, investing for long term should not your investment for the long term should not be touched at all. The term there is long term, which means it should not be touched at all. So by the time you would have built your emergency fund or you've built an emergency savings, that is what you're going to be using when an emergency occurs. And I know I keep on mentioning emergency. I'm not talking about craving shawarma or craving one shoe that you saw on the road. That is not an emergency. Emergencies, I'm talking about life or death situations. Your gadget has spoiled, not you want to get the latest gadget. There's a difference between the two of them. So you have to be able to understand and know what an emergency means to you as an individual and save up for it. Then, when you have saved up for this emergency fund, next thing is now to start saving for short term goals: education, equipment, travel, not vacational travel, but the kind of travel that is going to impact you personally and positively at the same time. So, by the time you've built your emergency fund, that's step one. Your next action plan should be saving towards a short term goal. And after you've done that, your next plan should be investing towards long term growth. This three action plan is not something you do in 1 month. It takes time, it takes commitment, it takes determination. You do not have to, it's not something that you start now, you want to complete it within the next week. It does not happen that way. You have to be consistent. If you're going to start with 5,000 naira to build an emergency fund, stick to it every month or every week. It depends on how frequent your cash flow comes in. If it's 10,000 naira, stick to it. If it's 50,000 naira, stick to it. Build an emergency fund. Now, when you have saved up within 3 to 6 months of living expenses, you can now keep that aside and now shift your focus from an emergency fund to saving for your short term goals. Short term goals are goals within 3 months to 12 months or 3 months to 1 year. Short term goals. And after you're done saving for those short term goals, next thing is to now start investing for long term growth. So at the end of the day, by the time you would have executed these three, you'd have started out with these three action plans. I can tell you for sure that you are already on your way to building a very strong financial future for yourself. I'm going to be leaving you with these few words of mine, which is: do not save what is left after spending. Spend what is left after saving. The difference is there. Don't save after spending. Spend after saving. And how to do this is, once your income comes in, pay yourself first. That savings you're dropping aside is a payment to yourself, because the remaining money is going to your expenses, is going to your bills, is going to other things that you have to use your money for. But by the time you save part of that money, you now spend what is left. Do not spend first and then what is remaining is now what you save. That is a very wrong ratio. And it's not going to be motivational enough. It's not going to be interesting to do. So you have to ensure to save first and then spend later. And this quote was said by Warren Buffett. Now, the key takeaway from this particular session is: savings and investments are complementary. They should not compete with each other. You have to save and you also have to invest. It is not I will either save or I will invest. You have to do the two of them. But all you have to know is you have to take one step before the other. Do not just to combine the two of them and rush immediately. One mistake I made as a young individual growing up was to start with investment without saving. That was a very costly mistake that cost me a lot. I jumped straight into investments, and I was, well, let's just say I thank God, because most of the investments I was doing, they were safe investments. So yes, they were not investment that could eat my money or investment that would make my money to just disappear. They were safe investments, but at the point where life happened or an emergency came up, I sold some of my investments in order to attend to those emergencies. So that is one mistake that I made, and I know it cost me a lot. So the best and the safest thing to do is save first, build your emergency fund before you can start investing. Note that every naira that you save today is a seed for tomorrow's harvest. So plant now, water it, and allow it to grow over time, and you'll be able to enjoy the harvest within the next year. Now, I want to do something on this session, not just on this session, but I created a WhatsApp group for this particular session. And the participants of this WhatsApp group, I have a challenge for us to indulge in, which I am going to be part of. Now, the challenge is very simple. The first action plan that I mentioned, which is to build an emergency fund. Now, this is the challenge. Within the next 30 days, you're going to be saving an amount of money in an account. I would also drop the full information on the platform. You're going to be saving an amount of money every month or at any interval that works for you in an account, so that by the end of 6 months, we're going to be seeing how much we have left. Now, the reason for this particular challenge is to help you build that habit, to help you build the determination in order to gaining the financial freedom that you want for yourself. So on the platform, there's going to be a challenge where you're going to be saving an amount of money that is okay for you at the interval that is safe for you. By the end of 6 months, we would all come back. There's going to be a check-in. There's going to be an accountability framework. So we are now going to I'm going to be checking in on everyone to ensure that we are sticking to what we have said we are going to do, which is the amount of money that you've decided to save every month, and also the interval that you've decided to go on with. So that by the end of 6 months, would have been able to build the habits towards saving for a particular goal or saving towards a particular investment that you decide to jump onto. And now we have come to the end of this session. I really hope that you'll be walking away with the confidence and the knowledge of how to invest towards a particular goal and also certain strategies towards investment. If you have any question or you need a handheld guidance on what investments to make, how to make them, and what platform to use or how to set up your platform, you can reach out to me on my Instagram or any social media at Donhenrynwosu. It's the same name across all social media. Reach out to me and I would help you with these specific actions. And at the same time, I have an investment book for sale, which is called Investment Playbook. It's a detailed and comprehensive book that would help you to understand and also to analyze yourself on your risk availability and what investments that suits you as an individual. And at the same time, you'd be able to use that book to invest in any form of investment that you want. The link is in my bio. You can check it out there. See you guys next time. And thank you for joining this session. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.